West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has reversed course. He has struck a deal with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on a $433 billion spending plan, dubbed by Democrats as the Inflation Reduction Act. The legislation aims to reform the tax code, fight climate change, and lower health care costs. Joining me right now is Texas Congressman, House Energy and Commerce Committee member Michael Burgess. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. So how do you like the new marketing from Democrats? This is a portion of the Build Back Better agenda, but they are calling it the inflation fighting bill. And it looks like it will go through. Do we know where Sinema stands on this?
Oh, no. I mean, obviously, that's in the other body. Look, we were in the Rules Committee yesterday hearing this stuff on the CHIPS bill. Interestingly, I was the only one who was voicing concern about the spending in the CHIPS bill. And then no sooner was the ink dry on that deal to go down to the floor and let us have a vote on the House today on CHIPS, when what wasn't supposed to happen then happened. Mitch McConnell, as you recall, had told us that there was not going to be a dressing up of the reconciliation bill and bringing it back, and yet that's exactly what they did. And I think it's been pointed out by several people already this morning. We will find out in an hour if the United States is in a recession. Most people feel that is in fact what has happened. And can you remember the last time someone suggested raising taxes to this degree during a recession? Even President Obama would not do that. He continued the Bush tax cuts for 2 years in 2009 because of the danger of raising taxes that much during a recession.
Yeah, I want to ask you about all of this, because when you break down this bill, the revenue raised at $739 billion, much of that revenue coming from a 15% corporate minimum tax, which is going to raise $313 billion. They've got the prescription drug pricing reform at $288 billion, and then this IRS tax enforcement at $124 billion. The IRS tax enforcement is something that Joe Biden has been pushing for the entire year and a half in office. He wants to hire more agents so that he could find new revenue under rocks for people he believes are not paying their taxes. There's a carried interest loophole at $14 billion, and total investments here $433 billion. What's your take on on whether or not this goes through?
Well, interestingly enough, that global minimum tax should be a global tax, but it's only going to apply to the United States. So number one, it doesn't work, and it has been rejected. Senator McConnell has rejected that concept in the past. The IRS commissioner has talked about that tax enforcement piece as not being particularly helpful and not delivering the type of revenue that the administration has talked about. So, yeah, there's lots of problems with the proposal on the table. We at the Energy and Commerce Committee have rejected the drug pricing proposal during the last markup on the last reconciliation bill. Seems like forever ago. And look, there's no question about, if they go through with what they're talking about on the drug pricing, substantial reduction of new products that come to market. Yeah, those things that are already in the pipeline will continue through the pipeline, but no one's going to make those new investments in those new therapies that we passed a big bill back in 2016 called the Cures Act, trying to drive new direction and new cures. This will put a wet blanket on that.
You know, we talked about the CHIPS bill a lot yesterday. Of course, it passed the Senate 64-33 yesterday. What are your thoughts on this bill? 17 Senate Republicans joined with Democrats in favor of this CHIPS legislation, even though Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer removed an anti-China security measure from the bill earlier this month. Congressman, I spoke with Marsha Blackburn yesterday, and she walked me through the fact that Senator Portman had a provision in there that ensured that the CCP could not steal intellectual property. Why would Schumer remove that?
Yeah, complete unknown. Look, in the Rules Committee yesterday, when we got this legislation, it was pretty much a love fest. Everyone seemed to be in favor of it. I felt a little bit like the ruffian at the garden party, because I was the only one speaking about the cost of it, and being on literally the eve of a recession. I worried about increasing mandatory spending, which we were doing in the CHIPS bill. Now, apparently, House leadership has vowed to bring this bill down because of the follow-on, which was Senator Manchin going through with the Build Back Broke over in the with the Senate reconciliation package. Again, Mitch McConnell had told us that that was not going to happen, and apparently that is what has happened. But here's the biggest thing, Maria. We had a classified briefing a week ago on the CHIPS bill. Secretary Raimondo came over and briefed members of Congress, and it was generally a bipartisan briefing. But the problem is, right after that, you have the Speaker's family go out and purchase $5 million in chip stock. It looks so bad that it just makes it almost impossible to support something like this when the behavior of House leadership on the Democratic side is just so wanton.
Well, I mean, it looks bad because it is bad, Congressman. How is it possible that the husband of the Speaker of the House, who is actually deciding what legislation comes down to the floor, what moves forward and what doesn't, how is it possible that Paul Pelosi is trading on all of this and buying chip stocks, buying Microsoft before a major DOD deal that was announced from the Department of Defense, looking at Microsoft potentially getting that business, buying chip stocks ahead of the CHIPS bill, then he sells it right before the vote. What is going on?
Maybe we all ought to be following his stock purchases, and that would be a proper investment strategy for us. But that's the thing; it is wrong, and it looks wrong, and it undercuts. If the CHIPS bill was good policy, let it stand on its own. Don't garbage it up with all of these other side issues that are just going to give people like me pause.
Well, they want a win, I guess, headed into what seems like a landslide for the November elections. But, Congressman, they're completely ignoring the border. And I know you introduced legislation yesterday that aims to protect unaccompanied migrant children from being trafficked throughout the country.
Right.
Congressman, this dangerous trek includes rape and beatings and anything that the dangerous cartels want. And yet there's no acknowledgement whatsoever from the Democrats.
No acknowledgement. Look, the last time I was down at the facility that holds kids at Fort Bliss, the Office of Refugee Resettlement facility, they told me that they do a pregnancy test on every young woman that comes into their care. I said, well, is there any screening done for, was that person a victim of assault? And the answer was, we'll have to get back to you, and they never did. But here's the thing.
Wow.
Secretary Mayorkas unilaterally changed the rules and said no longer, right now under current law, the family, the only person that they can release a child to is a mother and father or legal guardian. Secretary Mayorkas wanted to push kids through this system faster, and so he unilaterally changed the rules and said, oh, but we can give it to an uncle, aunt, grandparent. This legislation that I introduced yesterday said, no, not so fast. This is you have to pass. There would have to be legislation passed, and this legislation says, no, you can't do it. It restates current law.
All right, we'll watch that, Congressman. Thanks very much for weighing in on all of that. Michael Burgess joining us this morning in D.C. We will catch up soon. Jenna, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.